The thrill of having and watching Confusion race is right up there with every bit of success we ever had owning horses.
We know, we see, and thank you.
And Red Rum used to go past every day.
There is a lovely discount available to TBA members.
Hello and welcome to the Thoroughbred Breeders podcast, brought to you by the Thoroughbred Breeders Association. I'm Naomi Meller, CEO of the TBA, and it's my pleasure to be your host today. At the TBA, we are here to support you, to help you learn, to nurture your interest, and to answer any questions you may have as you breed, care for, and maintain your passion for these wonderful animals. We're also all about growing the fantastic community that exists in thoroughbred breeding, wherever you are in the world. In each episode, we'll be discussing developments, news, stories, and experiences, and helping you to feel connected to our work and your community. You can follow us on socials at thetba.gb, and do feel free to email us. We'd love to hear from you, and we're at info@thetba.co.uk. Now, on with the show.
Hello, it's the week after Royal Ascot, and my terrible voice is fairly damning evidence of how much talking I did last week. So bear with me, and don't worry, all the conversations you'll hear today were recorded long before I sounded like this, so you won't have to put up with this nonsense for too long. First up today is Carl Hinchy, whose story you'll hear in a minute, but it's fair to say that he fell in love with racehorses a long time ago, and that passion has never dimmed throughout his time as an owner, a breeder, and a racing enthusiast. Enjoy this.
And tell me, just as a starting point, let's kick off. How did you get into horses in the first place? Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your background, who you are, and how you got started with horses at the beginning?
Yeah, it's an interesting story in the sense that my first memory would have been with my grandfather taking me as a very small child and leaving me outside a betting shop while he went inside the smoky room, which became a bit of a mystery to me. And I'd look through there, I think, wonder what he's doing there. And I would have been maybe 7 years old or thereabouts. And it developed from that point to going to Hinchy Racecourse, which we lived nearby, and watching the big Grand National meetings and you know, back in the days. So I lived in Birkdale in England, and in Birkdale, it's where Ginger McCain originally trained. So he was only a few hundred yards, literally by the railway line. And Red Rum used to go past every day, and straight up the road onto the beach to be trained there. So obviously during those days in the 70s, when I was about 10, 11, that was when Red Rum was winning these Grand Nationals and running there and having huge parties afterwards in the streets. And it was very difficult not to, with all the other sports that were happening, that not to have any idea what the Grand National meant and what racing meant. So really, when I sort of became reasonably successful in business, it gave me the ability to sort of follow your dreams a little bit and take dip toe into ownership. And we ended up having runners in the Grand National, which was incredible, and lots of success. And from that success, through the sort of journey that I was on in ownership, I became very interested in pedigrees. I was buying stores, and then I had some success with fillies and mares, becoming listed winners, things like that. And I felt, well, why don't we look at breeding and use our own mares originally, and then we purchased a few mares and took the horses and trade sales, and it sort of led from there. And it was just, it was a journey that you sort of wanted to encompass every aspect of racing. We'd bought unraced horses, we'd bought horses in training, we'd won lots of big races. We'd won at Cheltenham, Ascot, Aintree. We'd won Grade 1 races as a family, and we wanted to see how the challenge of breeding would go, really, and that's what sort of led to Confusion we were talking about today being around. And he came from a very nice mare that we had that won a listed race, 6 races in all, and the sort of story went from there, really. We could talk all day about how and the different things that happened, but yeah, specifically on how the breeding came as a development of my love of the national hunt racing.
Yeah.
My sort of desire to tick all those different boxes, to be a successful owner and a breeder, and hopefully a breeder with some success. So The thrill of having and watching Confusion race is right up there with every bit of success we ever had owning horses. It's just a wonderful experience for us.
And that is just brilliant. I think what with people listening to this will know that we're doing quite a bit of work with the ROA at the moment. And I had a chat with Emma Banks about getting into breeding as a successful owner. But I think for a lot of people, that first step when you've owned a successful filly or mare, knowing what to do next is actually quite hard for people quite often, because that world of agents and sales and breeding and making choices and pedigrees all just can feel a little bit impenetrable. And I'm really interested, you said you mentioned in passing there, I'm really interested in pedigrees. How did you learn about that? Because I think that for some people that just feels like you look at this writing on the page and you're like, oh my God. Whereas actually when you get into it, it's so interesting.
I mean, ownership is a wonderful broad spectrum. I started in ownership 1% shares, 2% shares, 5% shares, a leg, all that type of thing. But a lot of people who are in ownership, they're reasonably intelligent. Would you believe? Because they've managed to garner some success in the real world, and obviously, if you apply yourself as you can do, you can't just do it like that. But over a 10-15 year period, you begin to pick things up, and you don't just rely on what people say to you, because when you rely on what people say to you, often in this game, they're trying to sell you something. They're trying to do. So what you do is you say, and everyone's different, but you challenge yourself and you say, okay, let me make my own decisions. Let me work it out for myself. And then if it all goes wrong, it's me that's to blame. I can't point the finger at an agent or point the finger at somebody else. So looking at pedigrees, you got to understand the types of horses you like, the types of horses that were consistently producing winners, that the types of animals that certain stallions were producing, and you looked at nicks and you looked at the different pedigrees, and obviously that's down to the individual and the sort of time you had. But I didn't like my job, so I was very happy to spend hours, poring over the internet and looking at things, looking up stuff, and also I felt, looking at the breeding industry became, at a certain point on the national hunt side, it became extremely populist. So there would be popular sires that created good returns of sales, but then there would be very good sires that were sort of overlooked a little bit because they were in flavor of the month. And my challenge to me was to try and find somewhere lurking underneath that type of, crazy sort of, right, this is the best sire at the moment. You need to go for Flensburg. You need to go for Presenting, whoever it may have been at the time. And of course, that costs an awful lot of money. And if you're looking at it from, I've sort of been in ownership for 20 years and done quite well with horses I bought fairly cheaply and modestly, and to do that, I felt there was a sort of intellectual challenge to do it, as well as having the ability to say, oh no, I don't want to pay that amount of money. I'll try and do it myself on a different budget. And that's sort of what led into the breeding as well, because the prices in the national home game were going up and up and up and up. I would have bought a winning pointer at a proper sale for 40,000-50,000 back in the sort of, back in the day. Those horses were now, they were now coming out at 300, 400, 500,000. And I felt, I think that if you're going to stay in the game and you want to do it, maybe breeding would be another option, because you can produce a horse yourself, and you can either sell it commercially if it falls well, or if it doesn't sell well, you could race it. And that's where I ended up. I sort of thought, well, I was selling horses at store sales every year. I was buying horses as yearlings from France or from at the earlier sales, and then reselling them with a mix of horses that I'd also bred. And when Confusion went to the sales, he went with 4 horses. I think 2 I'd bred and 2 that I bought as yearlings or fawns. And again, that was all part of the fascination, the interest to see how they would go. And I felt, even now, I've just sold 2 that I'd bred at the last Goff sale, and I felt that I wasn't that concerned about what they made. I felt a huge thrill at knowing that a horse that I created, produced, was good enough to sell. That somebody else wanted it, and that is a it's a hugely rewarding thing. The pounds and pennies don't always add up. I mean, I've sold stores for 100,000. I've sold stores for 10,000. And it for me, it's more, wow, you've produced this horse. It's down to you that it's even there. And isn't it great that someone wants to buy it? Because it's very, very hard. And we've had lots of hard experiences there, on that journey with everything that in ownership and in breeding, everything that could happen, bad or good, has happened. So,
If you hang around horses for long enough, that comes true, Carl, doesn't it?
yeah. But on pedigrees, yes, it was me. It was self-taught. It was something that I was looking at, and it was something that influenced where I sent the broodmares.
But I think that's often the point you raised there about fashion, for want of a better word, on stallions, so the sales is part of the innate challenge of breeding, isn't it? If you are going to sell what you breed, because you're trying to predict future fashion in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time, which actually, if you were in mainstream fashion, doing that is so hard, and actually we're asking the same thing, is to say, what are people's choices going to be several years down the line?
If you spot them at a very, very early stage, a horse like Nathaniel, who had very few jumpers, but they were very, very good. And you sort of thought, well, hang on, he's a very high class flat sire. He could be a very high class jump sire. Golden Horn, similar sort of situation in more recent times. But I think I was always attracted to sort of the very old fashioned, the good pedigrees, the old Vic mares, the presenting mares and things like that, which of course have passed us by a little bit now. But with Schiaparelli, that was the key for me, because Tahira was a German bred horse, and she was by Doyen, and she had big shuffle in the pedigree, so a beautiful German pedigree. And Schiaparelli, of course, also had a German pedigree and was out of the best old Vic mare that there's ever been. Had size and scope. He was 16.3. He was beautifully put together. He was the same colour as Tahira. And I went to see Simon Sweeting, and we looked at Cave Tara and we looked at Schiaparelli, and I sent one mare to Cave Tara and one to Schiaparelli. But she was always going to Schiaparelli, because I just really loved the page. The pedigree was sensational, and I mean, on that page you have you have Salmon, you have Network. The dam produced 10 winners. Its Network was the sire of Sprinter Sacra. It was just a wonderful jumped pedigree on a flat horse, so to speak, and they had the size and the looks. So for me, I just felt, because it wasn't a question of, Cave Tara was maybe 10 or 12,000 at the time. Schiaparelli was 2. I just felt that Schiaparelli suited the mare really, really, really well. And on your other point, Tahira, unfortunately, she passed away with an infection that she picked up in the field, but she was in foal to Blue Bressel at the time, and that was before Constitution Hill had come along, and it was Blue Bressel that was at Yorton at the time, and you could see that he had the ability to be he was a very young sire, and he was very upwardly mobile, and you sort of thought, we could be even better than perhaps we think. And I think the year later, Constitution Hill came up on the scene, and Confusion's mum had a foal with Blue Bressel ready to come out, which unfortunately we lost. But again, these are the peaks and troughs, aren't they?
They are.
I think you learn. I mean, I had a beautiful mare who won listed races and graded races, and she died after the winning line in Cheltenham one year. She had a heart attack, and it's devastating when these things happen. But if you can't understand, or you're not, if you don't have the gumption to deal with these things, you have to take the highs with the lows in this game. And difficult though these things are, you have to bounce back and move on for all the people that are involved. So you don't dwell on it. You just move through it, as I'm sure you know.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think it is incredibly sad. And I think one thing that is really evident from talking to you and from lots of breeders, and I spend a lot of time talking to breeders for my job, is how much people genuinely love and care about their animals. And we say that all the time, and it sounds really trite, but actually there's a lot of time and care, and people's livelihoods and their lives are spent with these animals.
I mean, I can only speak, obviously. I mean, I have experienced the stud farm side of things, and the much that we obviously we've mentioned about Claire Hetherington, who's been working with me for years now, and she obviously runs a smaller livery yard, which is, you've never seen anybody care for these babies when they're born. Like, she delivers them and she treats them as though they're her children, and it's prizing one away from her is almost impossible.
I did smile when I read that part about Confusion going off to Will Peel's to be prepared for the sales, and that just being like ripping her heart out for the day.
But of course, well, Will will tell you that he was a very spoiled boy when he arrived there. So.
Well, on that note, for Confusion, you have been nominated for an award at the National Hunt Awards this year, which the TBA are holding in July. For anyone who doesn't know about this, I'm going to do a major bit of plugging, Carl, for one of our own events, which is we're having the National Hunt Summer Party and Awards at Poulton Hills Vineyard, which is in Gloucestershire near Cirencester on the 21st of July, I think it is. I might have to check that date, but I'm sure that there will be a link in the show notes below.
There it is. I bought my tickets today.
Oh, gosh, you are. I mean, it's like you've prepped for this interview or something. Thank you. Yeah, well, we will look forward to seeing you there, and I will look forward to meeting you in person. But Carl is up for an award. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about just recognition for breeding? Because you've obviously, having things sell at the sales draw that certain sort of emotion. But I think being amongst your peers and being a part of the kind of national hunt breeding community in particular, Carl, how does that fit into the picture for you?
It's something that I would never have imagined or dreamt that I would ever be involved in, and that's what makes it special. So, you know, it's not about. I think obviously that's something that's unique to me because of my upbringing. So as I said, I've gone from my first even idea that horse racing existed was being left outside a betting shop back in the early 1970s. So to travel on that journey into ownership, into breeding, doing things, it's challenging, it's exciting. It's, you know, when the foals are born, you get to see them for the first time. And because obviously I've been very busy in my life, I've got lots of videos that the different people have sent me when they're standing up when they're born. You can't believe that they can even stand up. The danger of I'll say childbirth, for want of a better word, because I'm not well versed in that. You know, the anticipation coming up to it when it all happens, and then the dedication of the people that are involved. I mentioned Claire. Claire will be going to I bought her some tickets today to turn up for the event in the 21st of July, because she's the person who deserves to be there. You know, she has spent every day with these horses. She's reared them, she's delivered them when they were born, and then she has to have the challenge of waving goodbye to them when they go off to a sale or whatever it might be. So yeah, for me, you know, having the respect for all the people that are involved in this business and the people that deal with it day to day, I feel very blessed and lucky to be doing it. And when I was in Barbados in January, when I got a phone call from someone in the press wanting to do the interview for the Thoroughbred Breeders Association magazine, and I thought it was a joke. I couldn't believe it. You know, I had this WhatsApp message, and I thought, oh my God, this could be real, couldn't it? And then, you know, and so it was just such a thrill. It was such an honor and a thrill, and you can see from my face how happy I am speaking about it, because it's something that I never imagined in a million years I would be doing. And when I tell people about it, I just sort of say I don't say it's hilarious, because obviously I've worked hard to try and do these things, but it's something that brings a huge smile to my face and makes me feel, you know, very special, which is, you know, and as I say, it's, you know, I'm just the person who's looking to sort of guide things in these directions. It's the people who are there every single day that are doing the jobs that they do that become so attached to these horses. But for us, and with Confusion, he's won 5 races now. He's actually the third best horse that Chaparelli has ever produced under jumps racing, and the best that Doyen has produced is a Damsad. So, you know, and I'm confident he only needs to find £7 improvement become the best that Chaparelli has produced. So they were missing out on the Monson Cross all this time.
Well, there you go, folks. There you have it. Carl, I will 100% look forward to seeing your very smiling face in July at the vineyard, and we will be toasting confusion, no doubt.
Yeah.
In the meantime, though, you are very kind with your time, and I hope everyone has enjoyed this chat. Thank you.
It's been a real
See you
pleasure.
soon.
Thank you for having me on.
If you found your way here and you're listening to the TBA podcast, you've hopefully heard of GBB, the Great British Bonus, which, it must be said, is a fairly big deal for us here at the TBA. And due to how much you can win, it's a big deal for anyone involved in racing more widely these days too. Charlie Newton looks after everything GBB related here at the TBA, and she joined me to discuss the scheme, what's upcoming, and what you need to know.
So before we get started, Charlie, do you want to just tell people a little bit about GBB? Let's give a bit of background for those people who don't know. I'm sure everybody listening to this has heard of GBB or is maybe part of the scheme or understands about it. But just for anyone that doesn't know, give us a bit of background.
Well, hopefully they've all won a bonus or two. That would be a
Fingers
very
crossed.
positive thing. But yeah, so Great British Bonus launched in 2020, as you say, funded by the betting levy run by the TBA. It is designed, well, it doesn't design, it actually does. It incentivises and rewards the breeding, buying and racing of British bred fillies. Obviously very important for us all. It does that by awarding bonuses, usually of averaging about £20,000, depending how the filly's bred. We've just extended it last year to include GBB Plus, so it now means there are 30,000 bonuses up for grab for National Hunt and up to 40,000 for the flat as well. And those bonuses are paid out to the entire industry. So the breeder gets 20%, your racing only gets 65%, your trainer gets 7.5%, your jockey gets 5%, and importantly, the stable staff get 2.5%. So everybody benefits from it. And on top of that, if you're going to be selling your animals, they generally fetch a much bigger price at the sales and they're more in demand. You'll walk around the sales and you'll hear agents saying, just your GBB fillies, please. And they all get pulled out and seen. So it's a fantastic scheme. It's having a massive impact on the industry, and it's helping out at a time that we need it more than ever.
And for those of you who missed it, Jack Jones, the trainer last week, gave a lovely plug to GBB with a winning filly that he had. And it's definitely one that certain trainers, agents are very aware of, and they are really targeting lots of different stuff with these fillies because they know what is up for grabs and they know how much it benefits everybody across the industry. So like Charlie said, everyone benefits. And that is one thing that we really love about GBB. So 2026 foals, that's our bag here at the TBA. We love little babies being born in spring. We're coming up to the time where people might want to be starting to think about registering those foals now. Charlie, do you want to just expand on that a little bit? Because stage 1 is upcoming, right?
It is, yes. So luckily the deadline's stay the same every year, so it's hopefully quite easily to remember. But stage 1 opens on the 1st July. It runs to the 30th September, so you've got a few months to register your filly foals. Basically, we say as soon as you've got your passport back, as soon as they're registered with the stud book with Weatherby's, they're available to register. You can do that online with our own website, greatbritishbonus.co.uk, or you can phone the Weatherby's stud book and they can do it over the phone for you. Importantly for the listeners today is there is a lovely discount available to TBA members. So ordinarily it would be £475 to register per filly, but if you're a TBA member, you're going to be sent a discount code at the end of June, and that will allow for £200 off per filly. Which is phenomenal given that the TBA membership is £180 a year. So you're already making 20 quid in savings just on 1 year's membership.
So that's if you're a TBA member, Charlie. What about people who are not yet currently members?
You're paying £475, so obviously we would recommend that you join. It would ordinarily be £180 per annum plus £50 for a joining fee for your first year. But we now have another discount whereby if you've used a British Stallion this year or last year, we waive the joining fee, so you just pay the flat £180 for your membership fee, and then you get £200 off your registration fee per filly.
It's a no-brainer, really.
It is, and all the other benefits. You get your third-party insurance, your advice from your VAT experts, and everything else that comes with TBA memberships.
It's a no-brainer, really.
It is, all the other benefits. You get your third-party insurance, your advice from your VAT experts, and everything else that comes with TBA memberships.
Absolutely. And we are gently mentioning those over the next few weeks and months. So if you're not really quite sure what you get for your TBA membership, just watch this space or listen to this space. You're probably more like it, actually. And you mentioned stage 1 there. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the different stages and what each of those means for people? Because I think sometimes these things can be a bit confusing from the outside, can't they, Charlie? Do you want to just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so if you pay stage 1, so stage 1 can only be paid by the person who bred the filly, so the person in the stud book is the breeder. If you pay that, that means any bonuses she wins in the future, you're going to get 10% off, which is nice. Then there is stage 2, which is the 31st of May, the year the animal turns yearling, and that allows for another 10%. Whoever is the registered stud book owner, when that's paid, gets another 10%. And then we have stage 3, which we split out for flat and national hunt, recognising they have different paths. So stage 3 for flat would be due 28th of February, the year they turn 2. And for the national hunt horses, it's the 31st of August, the year they turn 3. And they're £500 each at the moment. And if that is paid, that means that the racing owner, the trainer, the jockey and the stable staff get paid out.
So you've got foal and yearling, and then either 2-year-old or 3-year-old, depending on whether you're on the flat or national hunt. And one of the common questions, we talked about this off mic before we started, one of the commonest questions we get at the TBA is, what happens if I sell my foal or sell my yearling? What happens if then I have no longer got any control over whether people pay or not? Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because it's a really common question that we get here at the TBA.
Yeah, thankfully. So basically, if you pay stage 1 or stage 2, if the next person doesn't do their registration, we're still going to pay you the same amount you would have been paid out if she'd been fully registered. It's just that everything comes up after that would be retained by the scheme. So we had one recently, a filly, she was stage 1 and stage 2 registered, so we paid out 20% of the bonus, but sadly owner didn't pay stage 3, so we retained 80% ourselves, and that goes back into the scheme's funds.
Okay, amazing. And what else do we need to know about why people might want to register their filly? Give us the big plug, Charlie, go on.
I think one of the biggest things is, yes, there's the monetary. It's sort of when she wins a bonus, you do get that lovely, it can be sort of £4,000 for a breeder, which is fantastic if you've sold that filly as a yearling and 2 years later you get a £4,000 increase. Obviously multiple bonuses as well. So, most fillies coming up to £100,000. So lots of 4,000 payouts. But one of the key things is the difference it makes at the sale. The store sale we just had at Goffs, for example, the median value of a GBB registered filly was double that of a non-registered filly, which is huge. It's absolutely ginormous. There was a lot of fillies that weren't registered that just went unsold. On average, I think the median value has increased 16.5% overall at the sale. So it really is important. It's the difference between getting an agent looking at your horse and them just walking by it. It really is game changing for anybody planning to sell.
And definitely we've seen that catching on with agents and trainers and people wandering around saying, oh, that one's got a hip sticker on, this one must be a GBB filly. And I certainly had a few conversations at Goffs, as you mentioned, with people who were, I really want to buy a GBB filly and I've got my eye on this one, but sometimes they're just too expensive because their price is, people are recognising the value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well is when you are registered for GBB and you're going to the sales, it's all the marketing we do for you as well for that filly. So she's going to be listed on our website. Her pedigree page is going to have GBB on it. We're going to send an e-com to agents and trainers or whoever has purchased those animals in the past to say, here's your fillies for you. We do a lot on social media, and quite often we're there at sales providing the hip stickers and helping promote these fillies. So you basically get a little marketing agency to help your filly as she goes through the ring.
Which is, if that's not incentive enough, I don't know what is. But on top of that, don't forget, you get a £200 discount for TBA members. So if you are not a member of the TBA yet, or you're not a full member of the TBA yet, and you have got a filly foal that you might want to register for GBB, definitely now is the time to be starting thinking about it. Charlie, anything else to add?
I don't think so. There's probably something I'll walk away and go, oh no. But I'll come back.
You can come back anytime. This is not going to be the last time that we talk about GBB. So Charlie will no doubt be back on the podcast in future, probably when it's the next registration deadline and we come back to tell you to remind you to register. But for now, get your memberships in and think about stage 1 opening on the 1st of July 2026. So we will go from there.
Finally this week, I chatted to Sophie Wolf of Rockcliffe Stud to talk about Racing Staff Week, which is organised by the brilliant team at Racing Welfare and is an initiative that the TBA have been supporting for a while. Rockcliffe, under Sophie's management, are once again taking part in Racing Staff Week this year, and she joined me to discuss the event.
But Sophie has been a massive advocate of Racing Staff Week and is a huge supporter, as I said. So before we get cracking on Racing Staff Week, Sophie, do you want to just tell us a little bit about Rockcliffe for anyone who doesn't know? Tell me about your team and about your mares and about what you do there.
Thank you so much for inviting me on.
It is our pleasure, Sophie, don't you worry.
About something that I'm quite passionate about. So Rockcliffe is a small privately owned stud. We have 10 mares here and 3 full-time members of staff. And then this year we've taken on a National Stud Apprenticeship student, an 18-year-old who's doing very well. That's been really good fun, challenging, but great to watch her coming through and learning. It's been brilliant. We effectively, the colts are sold in a yearling year. The fillies are kept and raced, and then anything that's good enough comes back to the broodmare band. And we're in just this year, we've got like 3, and the 4th generation is inside the mare of, we've got Azawir, Marshhawk, Trillium, and then Trillium is now carrying a filly, fingers crossed. And so that, you know, it's just such great to be able to follow those families through and keep them going. We do okay off a small.
I think that's a fair understatement. Go on, tell us. I was going to ask you, tell us about your best known couple of mares. Will be very familiar names to people.
We have Sky Lantern here. Other horses are available. And we have Snow Lantern, her daughter. We've got a very lovely Havana Grey filly in the yearling in the paddock. So high hopes for her. Pepita, who has bred Celandine and Division. We've Alfred Wallace and Besieged ran very nicely and won the other day. They are the foal 1 and 2 of Snow Lantern, so that's that line carrying on. We're okay.
It's fair to say there's some decent genetics floating around Rockcliffe.
Yeah, I don't quite know why it's working. It's, you know, the luck of the gods, so the speed gene comes down, but we're doing all right.
You are. And you mentioned that you've got 3 full-time members of staff and you've just taken on a National Stud Apprenticeship. And I think we will come back to National Stud Apprenticeships in another podcast episode because it's something I'm very passionate about. And I know Anna and the team at the National Stud have been working really hard on helping people to get apprenticeships known about and actions. And it's delighted to hear that you're doing really well with that, Sophie. But we will probably come back and talk about that on another day. But yeah, Racing Staff Week. So Racing Welfare started this a while ago. How did you hear about it? And tell me a little bit about your history with Racing Staff Week, Sophie.
Well, last year, my assistant chap, Mark, came and said, "Oh, look at this. Shall we apply?" And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." Like, we're a small team. We work on an estate, so it's a family-run estate. And there's, you know, the gardens are here and the shoot and the farm. And I said, "Yeah, go on. It'll give us an excuse to all get together." And we very luckily were given the grant. They send us some money through and a pack with playing cards and bunting. And we had a little get together at the end of the season. Once all the foals had arrived, we all brought salads and cakes and stuff like that. And then the meat, we bought burgers from, and we supported a local butcher. We're quite keen here about supporting local businesses for our feed and stuff like that. So we did our local butcher, who provided us with all the meat. And we all had a bit of a get together and played some party games. I did send some pictures through, but it's, you know, you spend so much of your life with these people, you know, more than you do at home. And we're lucky we all get on. But again, whether that's luck or it's the way we promote it, I don't know. But we all get on. And to get together, to sit down without the pressures of work removed, at the end of the season, to just chat and laugh, and we did a music quiz and all that kind of stuff. It's just it helps your staff know they're valued in a way that just chucking money down the line, that it doesn't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned applications, and I should say that this is something that the TBA supports. And Sophie has just heard this morning that we are going to be giving you a grant for this year as well. I would thoroughly encourage people to have a look at the TBA website for Racing Staff Week. If you haven't done it before, then it is definitely a great thing to do. If you have people working on your stud or on your farm, then looking after them, and we can help you do that. Sophie, what have you got planned for this year? I know you mentioned that Mark had just had the email this morning.
Well, I'm thinking we're quite in the you know, in a little bubble. There are some other studs, like Stratford Place is very near, Dalesford is very near, and Willie Carson's very near. We know everybody. So what I might do is just say, I'm doing this on this evening, and would they like to join us? Because I've got friends working on those studs, and it would be nice to get together and have a relax and include other stud people in the area. So I might pop that out there and see what response I get. And then we can all have a bit of a catch up and touch base and again relax and enjoy ourselves.
And in terms of your team, Sophie, how do you balance the bringing on of new people with, you've obviously got people who've been with you for quite some time, you've got a very established team at Rockcliffe, that kind of new plus experienced, how does that blend work at Rockcliffe, and how do you work on encouraging that?
It's we are inclusive. Like we go down to the local pub and do a quiz night once or twice a month, and obviously everybody goes. It's not mandatory, but there's only 4 of us. We all go. We tend to go to the cinema together and watch stupid films. We have done bowling, and we all kind of pick. It's every 6 weeks, every 6-7 weeks, and it's somebody's turn to pick something. And I'm sure the young girl that we've got here thinks we're all absolutely mad. But she joins in, and I was worried when she came here that we are an older. I say older. They're in their 20s, and I'm not, and she's only 18. So it's taken we have to concentrate on doing stuff that everybody enjoys, not just me. Or we'd all be knitting and crocheting, I'm sure. But so I let them choose really as well, and take input from them. And we all seem to, if it's something we haven't tried before, crazy golf we all went to, which was a bit random, something I've not really done before, but it was fun, and it's about just without the pressures of work, and and being able to just relax and chill. And then I find then that it's easier then to talk to somebody if there is a work problem, because they've seen you as a human being rather than just as your manager, which I think is important.
It is, and we work in such a pressurized environment with long hours, and people are, God knows anybody listening to this doesn't need me to tell them how tricky the breeding season can be. But I think having those moments of respite, those bonding times, the times when you're just, the off switch has been hit, and you can really talk to people is vitally important, Sophie, isn't it?
See, on a small team, everybody does everything. So if it does go wrong at work, or there's an emergency, people here are really prepared, and always have been, to put aside personal life and go, right, okay, I can't do that, I'm doing this now. And stuff like the barbecue is just a way of saying to them, look, we know, we see, and thank you. And for all the times that you've gone over and above what we've asked, this is our way of saying thank you. And valued staff will always go the extra mile. And then it's a way of making them feel valued, I think.
Yeah, and it's a vitally important way of making people feel valued. So with that in mind, the 20th to the 26th of June is Racing Staff Week. In future, if you're listening to this into the future, which some of you might be, do have a look at the TBA website, because as I said, we do support people for Racing Staff Week. We will be highlighting quite a lot of stuff on social media, and there will be things there from Rockcliffe, no doubt. And Sophie, we will really look forward to hearing about it, and I will look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much. It's been lovely.
My pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. That's all for today. Thanks so much for listening. You can follow us on Instagram at thetba.gb, and don't forget to tag us in your posts. We're always here to help, so do give us a ring or drop us an email at info@thetba.co.uk if you need anything. We'd love to hear from you. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, and we really hope that you'll join us then.